right, guys. Man, it has been a long, busy, and hot day today. It did rain yesterday, but today's hot. Making this on the 20th, so that's Sunday. But yeah, I've got my notepad here. I've been writing down video ideas so I can keep doing the 5 a week. It's not that I don't have topics to cover, it's just that I hate to say it, at my age, sometimes my memory, I actually do just forget things. Like, I'll think of a great video idea while I'm out doing something, but 6 hours later I just forget about it. So I started writing stuff down. And anyway, this was a video that I wanted to make as well. I did make videos in the past when I started doing this about reading and the importance of it, but this video I would just want to stress the importance of reading and why you always must be reading. And if you can, especially if you're a man, you should be reading non-slop. And when I talk about non-slop, I mean nonfiction, particularly in my case, religious texts. It doesn't really matter what it is, to be honest. When you read, even if you don't agree, like if you read religious texts, you can still get something out of them. But the most important thing with reading, and what I found, is that you always must have a goal with your reading, and that will guide you probably a lot farther than anything else. Is that when you do your reading, you need to have a goal. When I set out to start reading 5 years ago, my goal was pretty simple. It wasn't very specific. It was just understanding what was going on. There was a quote from Coach Red Pill, Gonzalo Lira, rest in peace. He was one of my favorite guys to watch in the early days of me, starting to become red pilled, I guess you could say. He had a whole series of videos. I think on Odyssey and YouTube there's actually a good archive of his videos. But yeah, he made some really good videos, thought-provoking videos. One of my favorites that he made was called Autism is a Choice. That's a very good one, but I'm digressing. That does tie in, by the way. Another thing with reading is, if you're not reading, always be seeking out knowledge. Always assume that you don't know everything. And so, yeah, the big thing, have a goal, because this ties to what I said. If you have a goal in mind, you can read other texts that may not agree with you. Like, I can read a good example is, like, I can read communist writings, I can read leftist writings, and even though I don't agree with it, and sometimes it's hard to get through, it's good to read things like that, so that one, you can steelman the position, but also you can understand the position. Because if you're going to advocate for anything in life, you need to understand the opposition. And I've made videos about that in the past, the dialectic. I don't believe in the dialectic. I think that's one of Satan's tools, you could say, to keep us trapped. But if you understand the cage, that's the way to think about it. If you understand that there is a dialectic being perpetuated onto you, right? Being put in front of your eyes, right? That is very important to understand, and that's something that reading can help you quite a bit with. So, yeah. Again, another reason I want to make this video, I've been getting some comments from people, and I don't really care if you guys don't want to subscribe or like the videos. That's fine, right? You guys can move on. I don't care about that, but I have been getting some comments about, people saying that I just ramble, and I do ramble, but I don't think it's incoherent. I think I make solid points, and it is a bit rambly, but it's kind of the style of these videos. I don't do edited content. I'm very much more about doing just the improv, person to person, and I digress a lot, but I try to repeat myself in videos so that you guys can get the points and that I'm trying to make. And so that was another thing that made me want to make this video. If you guys start reading books, and I'm going to give you some recommendations too. I'm not going to make this episode completely valueless. Again, I brought this notebook out because I actually, a long time ago, See if I can find what page it's on. But a long time ago, 2020 now, that was a long time ago. That was 5 years ago. I started just writing down books. Like, even if I didn't have the books, if I heard about it or something like that, I would write it down. And I think there's like 3 pages of books here. Yeah, there's more than that. Wow. I'll kind of just show you guys. This is a habit you can do as well. But I just kind of started writing down books that I wanted to read. And I have, it's literal pages, guys. Like, I was writing this stuff down for like 3 years. And as you can see, I did check off some of these books. But another thing when you start reading is you don't have to read a book right away when you get it. You know, sometimes you're not ready to read the book. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have it in your library. In fact, these days especially, you should. That should be another habit, is you should be trying to actively collect various texts and things of that nature that you find interesting, and try to get it in physical form as well. But yeah, again, this is the 4th page of this, so you guys get the point. You guys get the point that basically what I was trying to do at this time is I didn't know where to begin. And I think I've talked about this in the past, but one of my big aha moments was when I learned about Bitcoin. One of the books that I've recommended on this channel, and I'm going to recommend again here because I think it's that important, is a book by Saifedean Amos called The Bitcoin Standard. It was one of the first books I read when I started this journey of reading that, like I said, just kind of blew me away. I never understood Bitcoin. I never understood. I was kind of going on this path during this time, I remember, where I was like, I'm going to learn about finance. I'm going to really try my best to understand this like fiat currency system that we live in. I didn't even know what the word fiat meant yet. That's how much I learned in that year. But I basically was like, okay, the money is getting worthless, right? Like, why do people say buy gold? Why do people say that savings don't matter, right? Well, that set me on the path. And so I read about gold, silver, IRAs, bonds, the stock market, index funds, all the financial tools, you could say, of modernity. But then I finally, you know, and I was hesitant to this. This is what a lot of people were like, because I thought it was a joke. I was like, I finally like gave in. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn about Bitcoin. I'm going to read about Bitcoin. And I started watching some podcasts, and that was when I found this book. Everyone's like, read the Bitcoin Standard. And so I bought it, read it, and the rest is history with that. So highly recommend reading that, especially if you guys are worried about the financial future of the country, the debt spiral that we're in. Absolutely read that book. And Saifedean Amos has a follow-up book as well that is worth reading called The Fiat Standard. And that book actually just goes over what they've done. So you'll learn about Bitcoin, and then you'll learn about the history of the financial system that we're in. A lot of people, I think, know this by now, but I'm making this video kind of as more of like an entry-level video. And I might even label it something like top 10 books I think you should read. Because those tend to do better on YouTube. I was going to just name it like Always Be Reading or something, but we'll see what I end up naming it. I'm going to start doing my uploading for several videos tonight. But yeah, you're going to want to read The Bitcoin Standard. And then this is another book that I do recommend reading. Not necessarily to take it literally, but it's still worth reading, especially if you're a young man. And that is the book, The Rational Male, particularly The Rational Male Volume 1 by Rollo Tomassi. Again, I've talked about MGTOW in the past. I've talked about the red pill and how I don't subscribe to it anymore, because I think the problems are equally with men and women in that regard at this point. But as a young man, you absolutely must read The Rational Male, because you need to understand what's going on in the world, and you need to understand the nature of women. And I've said in the past, a lot of pushback in my comments, but I still stand by this. If you're young and you're dating a girl and she's young and you guys are both inexperienced in the dating market, as I like to say nowadays, you should just get married. You should just like avoid all this pain and suffering in the dating world. just get married and start your family and start going to church. That is my unapologetic advice on that. But many people, myself included, were not afforded that luxury in modernity. You know, we were fooled into the, you know, go to college and you could get married in your 30s, right? Your life doesn't really begin until you're 35. Like, I fell for all that shit. What can I say? And so I didn't read The Rational Male until like 2022. I didn't even really learn about this stuff until that year. And when I read it, you know, I got really mad. That's something that does happen. They're very right about it, is you get red pill rage. I got really mad and resentful, like, I can't believe this. You start to learn about feminism and you start to learn about these things. And, you know, a lot of this started for us in Gamergate. If you're my age, millennial, it started in Gamergate, but you didn't really know what was going on. You just knew that, like, women are in everything now, and they're calling us like sexist, and, you know, Me Too happened, right? All this stuff happened, and it's very confusing. But if you read a book like The Rational Male, you'll understand. So I'm going to kind of move through these a little bit quicker, because if I'm going to do 10 books in this video and I keep blathering on, it's going to be a very long video here. That was the other one. Yeah, that was the other one. These are going to be kind of a broad spectrum as well. And so it's going to be like, I gave you a finance book. I gave you like a sexual dynamics book. This is going to be more of a geopolitical history book. And this book is called The Unnecessary War by Pat Buchanan. I think it's called Hitler and Churchill during the Second World War, something like that. I can't remember the subtitle, but it's called The Unnecessary War. And it's by Pat Buchanan. And again, a lot of this is becoming common knowledge now because people are noticing more, and we're allowed to have these conversations. Sorry, my mouth is getting a bit dry here. We're being allowed to have these conversations more in the open now, but that book is still a powerhouse read. There's a YouTuber called Zoomer Historian. I've shouted him out before on this channel, that you guys should check out, but he was the reason why I read that book. I read that book in 2023, so it wasn't that long ago, but that book really put a lot into perspective with World War II, with Winston Churchill. You know, what were the motivations of Germany? What were the motivations of Britain? You know, how did America get pushed into this? It's kind of a beginner book, but it's told from a very unorthodox perspective of the narrative that is World War II. It comes at it from more of a perspective of, let's actually look at the motivations of Hitler and the mid-century Germans, right? Let's look at their motivations. Let's actually see what was really trying to be accomplished here. And then let's actually analyze Winston Churchill for what he is. The other one is, this is by Aaron Clarey. It doesn't say that on the book. I can't remember what title he used. I think it's like supposed to be a meme, but the book is called How Not to Become a Millennial. Very interesting. Again, this is like more of a Rational Male type book, but it kind of goes at it from the economic and sexual dynamic realm. But that is a really good one to read. How not to become a millennial. That is what the book is called. That one, you can just get it on Amazon. That one's pretty easy to get. If you guys know who Aaron Clarey is, you'll already know about this. You might have already read it, but Aaron Clarey's wrote a lot of good books, and I've read most of them actually. But the How Not to Become a Millennial was really good. I don't necessarily agree with Aaron Clarey's conclusions. Again, when you read these books, you don't have to agree or disagree with me, and you guys can come to your own conclusions. I'm just saying that these are books that are very well worth reading. I don't agree with Aaron Clarey's conclusions because he's kind of a misanthrope atheist type, but it doesn't mean that he's not right. So it's a book worth reading. Yeah, so this is the other one. I can't remember who the authors are. I was trying to find it in my book here, but the book is called What Really Makes You Ill. And again, you can find this on Amazon. And this is a really long book. Some of the ones I recommend on here will be really long. This one's really long, but I'm kind of wanting to touch on a couple different realms here. This one is specifically about health and about nutrition. And again, I'm not giving advice here. I don't know how it works. Just read it. But it's one of those books. It's an alternative medicine book. Very good. It helped me. I used to have what I call carb face. You can go look at my older videos, actually. I was kind of shocked watching some of my videos from like 10 years ago. My face was like really puffy and I looked really just unhealthy. And I was way younger then. So it is proof positive of what a diet can do for you. I mean, this is a good example, right? I used to drink soda. I've been drinking seltzer water for like 5 years now. And just that alone, not drinking soda changes a lot. But anyway, that is a book that is definitely worth checking out. It is called What Really Makes You Ill. And again, I forget the author's name, but they were on a channel called Germ Warfare on Odyssey. That was how I found out about them. He does interviews with lots of people, and he did an interview with those authors. It's a husband and wife duo, and they're older people, but it's this really exhaustive book. It's like 600-700 pages, and it is all about nutrition and diet and drug side effects, just the whole spectrum. It was absolutely fascinating read, and it changed my perspective on a lot of things. Obviously, I read it during COVID. That was the peak of like finding it out, but you really do need to know this stuff. It's very important to know how your body works and how nutrition plays a role in that. This is where these are kind of just topics I'm interested in. So these last couple might just be similar, but I would recommend you read them all. There's a book called The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. Very well worth reading. And then there's another book called The Madness of Crowds. I want to say Charles Murray wrote that, but I can't remember who wrote it. But both of the books deal with propaganda, and that's been a theme on my channel that I really am interested in. I'm interested in one of my favorite shows is Mad Men, because the whole show is about how they used advertising to basically like psyop the population. So all that stuff is interesting to me. So a lot of the books I read, I've read Walter Lippmann, I've read Edward Bernays. These are like the pioneers of a lot of this stuff, where they basically talk about how like we don't need to convince people of reality. We can just create the reality for them through media and news and all that, and they will just believe it over time. This is very much like tapping into human nature. And so The Righteous Mind, that book is more about man's hubris and how it lets you understand how these people think, the people that create propaganda, right? They think they're doing good, right? They're like, if we just lie to them and give them their narrative, they'll it's kind of like the Satan stance, I guess, in heaven, you could say, like I will guide them back to heaven, but I'm taking their free will away, and I'm just going to lay out reality for them, and they can just live the life we tell them, right? We're going to create manufactured consent serfdom. And so that's kind of what The Righteous Mind is about, letting you understand how these people think. It's more of a Machiavellian text. But The Madness of Crowds is more about studying crowds at scale, you could say. That book I remember I read that book during 2020 when the whole George Floyd thing was happening, because I saw The Madness of Crowds, and I was like, what's going on here? And I was watching a lot of podcasts at the time, and that book came across my desk, you could say, and so I read it, and it'll help you understand what's going on. It'll even help you with MAGA, right? You'll look at Trump supporters, and you'll be like, why are some of them so stupid, right? And why are so many people asleep at the wheel? That's right. Like, what is a normie? What is an NPC, right? You'll kind of learn those modern terms if you read a book like that. And then this is kind of the last one I have. I wanted to give you a theological one as well, so maybe I'll throw this one in there. But again, this is going to be an Orthodox one. So it's Seraphim Rose. He wrote a book called Orthodoxy, the Religion of the Future. The title is a little bit misleading. When I first started reading it, I thought it was going to be about how orthodoxy is the religion of the future, which it kind of concludes that way. But the book is actually really about all of the fake religions that are going to come up during our lifetime, and cults, you could say. So that one was extremely interesting, and it was not what I expected. So I definitely recommend that one. And then the last one, this one is very heavy. So if you don't have the stomach for this, I understand. Don't read it. But it's called Programmed to Kill. And again, I forget the author's name. I'm really bad with some of the authors, so I apologize. But if you just look these up, you'll find them. It's called Programmed to Kill. This book has a black cover, and on the front of it is like, it's kind of a graphic book cover, but it's a book that is essentially about MK Ultra and serial killers specifically. What is a serial killer? How are they created? Things of that nature. And so, yeah, I wanted to give you guys some books to read to kind of cap this video off. And if you guys watched it all the way through, again, I forget to say at the beginning, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Share the videos, comment down below. Appreciate all the support. But yeah, always be reading, guys. These are just my quick recommendations that I could think of today. The Bitcoin Standard absolutely should be, that was why I said it first. That's a really good one to start with. Just start reading something like that. Another one that you could read if you're just a new reader is a book called Economics in One Lesson. That's a good, if you just want to understand the Austrian economic side of finance, right? You could just read a book like that. You can just pick books like that. You could read a book by like C.S. Lewis called The Great Divorce. You know, that's a good book. Not all fiction is bad, by the way. You could read Lord of the Rings. You could read, you know, C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. You could read things like this. So the point is to always be reading, always be learning as well. Like sometimes I don't want to read, so I just listen to podcasts or whatever, but I'm always trying to listen to something like, what can I learn from this, right? Like I've said in the past, like I listen to like Jason Mirachuk and Jay Dyer and people like that. And I recently watched the Tucker Carlson, Daryl Cooper interview about Epstein. So these are the things that I try to listen to, and you can check them out. And it's better than 90% of the slop content you're going to watch out there. So anyway, guys, that is the video. I'm exhausted. I think I'm just going to go to bed early tonight. I don't know if you can see it in my eyes, but lately I just have not been getting the sleep that I need. So trying to work a full-time job and pump out these videos and do other things as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about my list. You guys can comment down below as well, books that you would recommend. For me, even for the viewers and for me, you know, I will read. If a book sounds interesting, I will definitely check it out. Yeah, that is the video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you all on the next one.